Welcome to Everyone Loves Wrestling, brought to you by the Spandex StandUps. This is our first episode of Everyone Loves Wrestling, and our guest is the very funny comedian Lee Hardin.
Oh, thanks.
He's been a. Just wanted to shout you out. You've been on our weekly roundup podcast.
Yes,
and, we're so happy that you agreed to be our first guest. Thanks for being here.
Which I love being a part of that Spandex podcast, and I didn't realize I was the first one. So this is
first one, man. Don't mess it up, okay? This is like Lyra Valkyria with her IC title. All the pressure's on now, buddy.
We might take your title next week if this episode doesn't perform.
It was at a house show. Pull it back. Pull it back.
Yeah, Bob Backlund this thing. Okay, 8-second episode. Oh man,
great reference.
I want to first ask Lee. What is the last wrestling show you saw? The most recent show that you might have gone to live. What was that? And tell us about it.
It was late, or was it the summer? It was definitely last year in Chattanooga. It was a house show at where the your UTC's basketball arena.
Okay.
Cody was champ, and it was awesome. It's cool to see a real pop instead of like.
That's amazing.
I hadn't been to a house show in a while. How's WWE's house show?
Oh, it was fantastic. The crowd was into it. The arena looked very similar. The setup looked very similar to the way it does on TV. My buddy David Morrison, who's also a gigantic wrestling fan, he took his kids, invited me. And we had a blast. But it was cool to see Cody get the real babyface pops. It's not just on TV. So
I love house shows because I've gotten my wife nowhere near a wrestling fan before we got together, but she has an open mind about it. You know, she understands you got to get your entertainment somehow.
Usually the guy has to do that with the 90-day fiance deal.
We get each other. You know what I mean? She's like I don't have Star Wars memorabilia everywhere, so she's okay with the wrestling figures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got to show her the nice live production Raw, and she's like, "This is it was a Bridgestone.
Yeah,
we got free tickets because we had some connections. I got to be like, hey, look at this free tickets. Hey, you really feel real good, fellas. You know what I mean?" And so she got to see the big production, and then I also got to take her to a small house show in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
All right,
and she got to see it, and the bone, like no commentator, no announcer, just wrestling, and then just the wrestlers cutting up.
They have more fun on the house shows.
R-Truth raps for like 5 minutes, and she's like, "I didn't know his entrance was that long." I was like, "It's not."
No, R-Truth was at the house show too in Chattanooga. Like we all saw them getting into the arena, and the crowd was like, he was over. We're chanting for him, and he does the "What's up" thing. He knows we're there for him, and that was cool.
That's awesome.
Oh
Do you remember the first wrestling show that you ever saw?
Went to live. Kinda, I don't remember any of the matches. I was going
to ask, is this a lifelong fandom? Have you been a fan from like as long as you can remember?
Yeah. Okay. I blame my parents, even though they tried to get me out of it when I was 12. But
why do you blame them?
Well, they start like one of my first core memories was going to some gym wrestling show.
Was your dad a wrestling fan?
No, not really. Like, when he was a kid, Wahoo McDaniel was his guy.
And
so,
Chief
and I thought I would get a better reaction from him when I gave him an autographed picture of Wahoo, because I saw Wahoo when I was a kid at like a back outside wrestling show.
For you, Dad.
Yeah, but a core member was going to a gym and seeing a wrestling show. I'm sure it was an indie show, but I remember him taking me down and then him just hitting the mat. He wanted to see what it felt like. So, and they're the ones. I remember watching on TV. It was sorry, I work clean, but it was a big guy wrestling midgets. It was a midget. So they were called midgets. Words. It might have been WWE. It might have been the Saturday morning show.
Vince loved that mess, man.
He had one. I think it might have been even Giant Gonzalez, maybe. But he was.
No.
It was him. It was him. A bunch of It was him. A bunch of little people wrestlers. So, and then the action figures was the second memory that really got me into.
As you can see, this is my collection from being a child.
One Christmas, I got the ring and a bunch of these guys right here. So that sparked it. VHS tapes at Blockbuster. That was my WWE network. There's that famous meme that pops up now. But
did they used to have, because I wasn't watching wrestling back in the Blockbuster days. So did they have like WrestleMania?
Dude,
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster, Hollywood, mom and pop shops. They had a wrestling section. So
when how soon after the pay-per-views would the DVDs
probably
get
2
there?
months.
Yeah, maybe.
So like you got Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
maybe if you're lucky by the end of March.
Yeah.
But that's when I was old enough to start paying attention to it.
Right.
To me,
It wasn't that
it was just
show.
Royal Rumble. 89 was my jam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It
Like
was-
I didn't know.
95
It didn't strike me that it was 1992.
The only
you know what I mean?
WrestleMania I couldn't really get was WrestleMania 1. They didn't have that one at Blockbuster.
Because it was on cable television.
I guess,
they didn't
yeah.
have a VHS of it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
that
Like-
one was not available. Yeah, so
It's crazy
outside
to
of that,
think about that time when, like, if you weren't able, like, if you had a rec baseball game on Monday night from 8 to 10,
Yep.
you just weren't seeing
Yeah.
Raw.
No.
You
Well,
that's the
there
thing
was
is,
no
like,
way to see it unless you were able to.
Raw
unless you
was a
taped it.
game changer
City-
for us. Like
City League
we
ball,
got,
yeah.
we
Go
got you got wrestling on Saturday mornings, and then whatever the VHS was
Yeah.
on the weekends. Like that was your only chance.
you
Like
didn't have
I didn't
cable-
know who the current champ was.
No.
I didn't know the current storylines. You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
and they weren't giving you storyline development on Saturday morning. They were just showing you who Hulk Hogan was beating. up.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, so like
Didn't have cable.
It's fun to
It
go
was-
back now and be like, oh, they did have storylines. But it's so funny to me to see so much of 80s and 90s wrestling was not storyline based. It's just you had a guy, you built him up, and then you fed him to the main babyface.
simple.
And that's just what you did. It's
Yeah.
not, you know, like that. It's crazy that we truly got to grow up and become fans when they actually put some effort into wrestling. Because we're complaining about our guys not being in a storyline
Yeah.
that we want.
We didn't talk
They
like
didn't
that.
even have storylines.
Right.
We did not talk like that growing up.
Right.
We were not producers. We were not agents growing up.
Right.
We were fans. So absolutely.
Who was your favorite wrestler growing up, or like the person that like you bought their T-shirt, you rallied behind them?
If I was
Mine's
Well-
right behind you, right there. By the way,
Macho.
no, I mean Doctor of Thugonomics.
Oh,
right
heck
there.
yeah.
I mean
Word
that
life.
version of John
Word
Cena,
life.
because like, I mean, I could say Bill Goldberg as a Jew from Atlanta. But, sure,
That's why I put him right in front of you, my guy.
Yeah,
Goldie,
I mean, but yeah, that's awesome. But like that John Cena, I don't know what it was. I think it was probably because I was listening to Eminem.
Yeah. Well, it was such shock value too with what he was doing, and
Yeah.
Because he had no business being as good as he was at rapping than
yeah.
he was.
I mean, it was like a roast comic out
right,
there.
exactly. Yeah. No one was doing what he was doing at the time.
So
Yeah.
who was yours? We're probably in different generations.
Oh, for
over
sure.
here.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like as a kid, like born in '85, it's going to be Hogan. That's just Hulkamania ran
you
wild.
were a
Like,
Hulkamaniac.
Hogan was everywhere, and so
how did the debut on Raw hit you?
that hurt. Well, it hurt. Like it just. I don't know. Like
That's tough. That's
yeah,
tough.
because he came out there to promote his beer. And people were like, "Oh, political reasons." I'm like, "Well, no, Undertaker was on there
Yeah, I was
too."
going to say, Undertaker didn't get that response.
So
Well, also, like, you're
yeah.
trying to cut the same promo with the same tone. It's like, you aren't the same guy. Become an old man.
Don't
Yeah.
hit me with a brother.
Because-
all right? I'm not your brother.
Yeah.
I haven't been your brother for a long time, Hulk.
Yeah,
Talk
I
to me
know. I was
like
ca-
a wrestler.
Just come out and talk to us like we're people now. Like, in case you haven't heard, like, we broke the fourth wall. Fabe doesn't really
I
exist.
still feel like
you
he's
know.
walking around backstage being like, heel and a face together, what's wrong? You know, like Hogan, it's different times, bro.
I still, before it's too late, I don't know. I want to go down to Clearwater and go when he's there.
I do want to go to his
I want to
his
see him.
shop.
Just
Isn't he there like one day a week or something like
Tuesdays.
that? Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Every Tuesday he's there?
That's what
like
I was
the
told.
thing?
Yeah, I was told on Tuesdays. I just want
We
to.
should get down there and interview him.
Yeah.
would-
You know he'd love it.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
We're coming.
It's one of those things that it might be more detrimental to our podcast.
Hey, controversy creates cash. Controversy creates cash.
Hey, you guys
So-
want you brothers want to interview us?
We get the first interview post for all. It's just like, hey, let's talk about it.
Like, bro, y'all got Hulk
He's-
Hogan?
he
That's
said-
gonna kill your podcast.
he said the N word so quick. It was
like it just came
so
out
weird.
so fast.
Yeah, Hogan was the gateway, but then you start watching more, and when I started watching those tapes, Bret Hart was the champ, and on the magazine covers, Bret Hart was the champ.
Yeah.
I know you're a Shawn Michaels guy. Shawn's cool. I became a Shawn guy too. But
Well, it's just like one of those things. You got to be one or the other.
it's generational,
You
too.
couldn't be a Brett fan and like you look at those wrestling fans weird when you're like, who's your fan? I like Brett, but I also like Shawn. You're like, you're not a real fan.
Like that's
You're not a real fan.
That ain't it.
That's how you get. That's how you weeded out the
You-
people that weren't real.
Yeah, it's like
you
know?
like
Yeah.
Friends and Seinfeld,
Right. It's like you like the
that.
Lakers and the Celtics.
yeah,
Like
you
what?
can't do this.
No.
You can't do this.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Brett was the guy. He was we just thought he was cool. That's
So
I don't
how'd
know.
you feel? Because I know you're a Bret Hart fan, but you're also a Patriot. you know? So how did you feel when they made Brett do the anti-American stuff?
Well, that's when I believe Stone Cold was becoming a thing at the time. So
that became
I
your
was
guy.
like, sorry, Brett. I dressed as
And
Stone.
I think that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted.
They
to
figured it out because Stone Cold came along and we're like, did he just say ass on TV?
Right. See, that was the whole appeal. Like I was
Yeah.
already a Sean fan.
Yeah.
But then he started doing the crowd.
Right.
I was like,
And
sold.
just looking for. Gosh,
You're like, hey, mom.
Oh, dude. I don't know if my mom's hit me harder.
luckily, my private school I went to was small enough where I did the suck it and no one
Melanie
saw it
Ann
and reported
Harrison
it.
wasn't having it in her household. She raised 2 boys by herself.
Yep.
And she wasn't taking any
No
disrespect.
degenerates in this house.
God, no.
But
And,
I remember watching.
I did that to a teacher.
Yeah.
But like slow mo as I'm doing it,
Yeah.
she's turning around and I'm like, oh no. Like so I was like, it's one of those where she's like principals. I was
sold
like,
it.
yeah.
You sold it, man. I love
You
it.
even came up with the hands after you're like,
It's like
Then you started sitting outside her hallway classroom with a sign and just eating bananas.
let me back in.
Dude, I remember week to week with the stuff because you grow with the product with wrestling, and so I was 13, and that's the Attitude Era. Your brain's the Attitude Era was a 13-year-old,
Yeah, dude.
on full
We had it.
hormones. So
We truly got the best wrestling
we
experience
did,
being
and,
our age.
and week to week, waiting the best sign I saw was like it was right before Vince got stunned. Because Stone Cold was on a warpath every week. It was a new commentator he was stunning, and then someone in the crowd had like a check mark box, like JR. It was JR. I don't know if it was Lawler.
I think Lawler took one.
Lawler, JR, and then Vince McMahon was the last one that wasn't checked yet, and so
And then
it was all like
it's when Michael Cole was just an interviewer.
Yeah.
So he got Michael Cole.
yeah, and then oh man. Todd Pettengill does not get enough love.
Love Todd
He was-
Pettengill.
he-
Think of the T-shirts that
He is
get
the king
sold
of
back in
Coliseum
the day.
video, man.
Yes.
And
The rat tail and everything.
good Lord, when I was watching those Coliseum videos, the intro was him going, "Did you get your free gift when you were in a video? You get a free gift." Blockbuster looked at me like I had 2 heads. They had no idea.
See,
Yeah,
Melanie Harrison also wasn't having the fact that Blockbuster made you give them a credit card. So we didn't get 'em. We got the mom and pop movies.
Those are the best
you just
ones.
paid cash.
I wanted to work in a mom and pop shop when I was a kid.
My
That was the
Dukes
coolest.
wasn't. I remember being in Blockbuster when they're like, "All right, we just need a credit card on file." She's
Yeah.
like, "No."
Yeah, and then I also
like, we're gone.
yeah.
I'm sitting there with my. They got a better wrestling.
That's the mark of the beast.
Because they did but luckily the mom and pop place, like it's the experience you don't get from Blockbuster.
Yeah,
or corporate
the wood
chains.
panel walls,
They
man.
realized I liked wrestling, so I feel like they got better.
so
They
much
got
more.
they were
They knew
like,
what you wanted,
he would say,
so-
be like, "Hey man, I got the new Royal Rumble in." Like he would be like,
That's-
as
Yeah.
I'm coming in, I'm like, "Oh, that's the wrestling kid."
Oh
You know?
heck yeah!
That-
Glad it
cool.
worked out
Yeah.
that way. I would not have gotten that same experience with Blockbuster.
I also got to dress as Stone Cold for like my 12th,
Oh
11th or
my
12th
God.
Halloween. Mom found a bald cap. She found a bald cap. I had the shirt. Had
Do we have
denim
a
shorts.
picture? Do we have a picture?
No,
of
we
you?
didn't. We weren't that rich yet. So we,
my mom,
we
I'm trying to get my mom. So I was a wrestler for Halloween for a
Okay.
good stretch, and there's a one where I went all out for Conan. So
Okay.
I'm hoping my mom's got a picture.
Ooh,
of that.
like
the
WCW?
NWO
Arriba la raza Conan?
like boxers pulled up, baggy pants. I had an NWO
Yeah.
like tank top. I had the whole thing.
I went to a private school from my 6th to 8th grade, and it just so happened that we all loved Nitro and Raw. We were all on it was like
That's when it was cool to be a wrestling fan.
know.
You didn't get picked on as a kid.
the families, our get together with other families was the pay per views. We would alternate either the WCW or WWF pay per view. We would switch house to house.
That's awesome. dude.
Bring food.
I didn't have friends like that.
That's all right.
All my friends said I was lame for watching wrestling.
Yeah, no, my friends, we would. There were like 3 of us that
Yeah.
we would always switch
That's
doing the
awesome.
pay per view.
That's such a genius idea.
And our
wanted-
parents were like, they're like, "Is it our turn? How much is it this time?"
Right.
I'm like, "It's only $78."
Which was a
You pay
lot
$10.
of
You
money.
pay $10. You pay $10.
It's a lot of money.
It was expensive.
Yeah,
but-
that
I was
was
thinking about $78 in 2000. Like, ugh.
yeah. No, those things used to be like $50, 50 or
Yeah,
60.
still though, they
which
were
was a
20.
lot.
They were 1999 in the 90s,
Yeah, man.
and that was
Absolutely.
still. My mom still was like $20.
Yeah.
It's coming on Monday. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like I remember, my mom found out they did a recap of the pay per view on Monday. she was like, well, why in the world would I ever pay for it?
You're getting the discounted Halloween candy.
It's just in pictures.
Which is so funny because shout out Melanie, I helped you hook up Netflix last week.
There you go.
Because you couldn't miss the debut. So I see you. You hooked just as much as all of us are now.
Did we ever try to, like, when you couldn't watch the pay-per-view, did you try to watch Channel 98 where you could it was almost like radio, wrestling radio?
No,
You could-
It never came
got
in
no.
close enough.
Okay,
For me.
you
The
could-
closest I got was Skinamax on Fridays every now and
I try and download some stuff off LimeWire, maybe. But,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you could do the blurry channel, and you could hear the pay-per-view. So it was like the radio.
I never
So-
got into. I'd have to keep myself entertained to not think about it, like because that would kill me as a
'Cause
kid.
all the things you're
Sundays, you're like, I'm missing out on the paper.
I know.
And there's no dirt sheets to check the
No.
results. You literally just had to go to school on Monday.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated tried a little bit, which those were a highlight to go to the grocery store and see all these, because you would see guys that weren't in WWF, and you would hear about all like the legends like Ric Flair, and the magazines were still in black and white.
I
And
was
you could create a wrestler.
massive magazine fan.
Do you remember that? You could create a wrestler from the little chart.
No, wait, what? They had
It-
charts.
It was a little like
This was video games before video games.
not video games, but it was like just a layout of like a character you could create off this little attribute. It's almost like your own like gamer card
Okay,
or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So
I love stuff.
yeah, that was fun, man.
My mom found some of my old WW magazines, and she's like, "You want me to keep them?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
I just want to look at them one more time, then we can toss them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My gosh, yeah.
Because there's one with when the Ultimate Warrior came back
Yep.
in the mid '90s,
Yep.
and they tried to push him, like they buried
Yeah,
Triple
and then-
H for that dude.
And then Goldust had humped him.
Yeah, that wouldn't go.
I was like, look, I like a lot of raunchy stuff as a 13-year-old, but I'm like, I don't know about.
Well, it's just funny not
Like,
knowing.
when
Well, you
they go
didn't
to
know the
commer-
kind of guy the Ultimate Warrior was, so you knew
Dustin-
deep down he's losing his mind.
Dustin is like rubbing him so hard.
Well, that's
so.
all the Gold Dust character was
Yeah.
poking fun at his dad and,
And
anybody that he thought like,
Yeah.
you want me to be a heel? I'm gonna dress up like the golden, like the the Emmy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
we go-
dress up like an
yeah,
Emmy.
or the Oz. Yeah,
And I'm just gonna be as weird
Yep.
as I possibly
get
can.
in your
And
head.
what do you think? He's one of the greatest characters in
so
the Attitude Era.
original. Yeah,
I mean, I started really watching like 2003, 2004 when he was kind of towards the
yeah.
Well, you got to see him
later
and Booker
years.
then, right?
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
And it
To
was
me, that's one of the best things he ever did was that tag team with Booker.
and even
Goldie.
then, we loved Gold Dust, and there was
Yeah.
a difference between like Gold Dust and the Hurricane. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like they weren't really.
Hurricane was cheesy. Goldust was the man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Even though the Hurricane beat The Rock on Monday Night Raw.
Oh.
Well, when they gave an effort for Hurricane, he was actually turned out to be a pretty good character.
Oh yeah,
Rosie,
it was over.
Rosie and the Hurricane. Which
Oh,
shout
yeah.
out to Rosie. A lot of people don't realize that was Roman Reigns' brother.
That's right.
But I
man.
absolutely love 3-Minute Warning. Like they got that. Like they weren't getting a lot of things right during those times, but
Yeah.
two big dudes that just beat up people at the snap of a finger.
Yeah.
Here for it.
Dude, the
They
rest-
beat up women. They beat up the referee. If you snapped your finger, whatever was in the ring was no longer in the ring.
Did they ever get to work with Moolah? I missed it if they did.
Oh, they destroyed Moolah
Okay.
and
Moolah and
Mae Young.
Mae Young.
Yeah,
'Cause
they destroyed them one
I
time.
love the stories about how they want, like, there was a Bob Holly for me, by the way. The more you learn about him, you're like, oh, I think he was stone cold behind the scenes more than stone cold. He spoke his mind. He's like, you can fire me, but I'm going to
well,
get
that's
my word
why
out.
he didn't get pushed a lot. So.
But he was working with one of those. I forget which one, Mae Young or Moolah, and he was like, "Okay, I can clothesline you, but I'm going to be soft." And she was like fighting him about it. She leaned into him and she was like, "Lay it in, mother." You know?
Well, I love Bully Ray because he was like, he's like, don't give me that crap about poor Mae Young and
Yeah.
Fabius Moolah. He's like, he's like, I can't remember which one because to me they were both the same broad.
Yeah.
He's like, just in my ear yelling at me all the
Yeah.
time. He's like, I put one of them through the table and then they came up to me afterwards. He's like, I didn't know you were a pussy. And he's like, from then on, I didn't take it easy on it. So he's like, so if it was Mae Young that
Yeah.
said it and Fabulous Moolah didn't want me beating her up, too bad. Your friend got you just as
Right.
much trouble. I just put you both. He's like, I tried to take their heads off when I clotheslined them. I tried to drive them through the canvas. He's like, I'm not letting a senior citizen call me a pussy again. But it's a great little clip, man. I thoroughly enjoy it. I love the Dudleys. I love
yeah.
Bully Ray and TNA. I thought he was one of the great things. I thought he was one of the shining factors of I loved Aces and Eights. I didn't think Aces
such
and
a
Eights
good
got
faction.
to shine.
Such a good
They
faction.
tried to kill it too fast. Like wrestling, it was that age in wrestling where they were too scared to let things breathe. They're like, we need an ending.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. My brief time I spent with Vanderbilt Athletics with the football staff. They They came through Nashville one time. I guess they were back with WWF or WWE at the time. But the Dudleys came through. They were doing a workout in the football weight room. They walked by the hallway, and I interrupted them within 2 seconds and sure enough, they took a photo. I didn't know they were mean mugging though. I was smiling like a doofus, and so they're all just. I was like,
get on the same page with the picture.
I wanted to do.
Always mean mug with the
Yeah,
wrestlers.
I wanted
You
to spite-
You always got to go mean.
I was- yeah.
You always got to be like, we smiling? No smile, no smile, no smile.
I was goofier than Spike Dudley in that one. I was like,
Which, by the way, that dude
what a
didn't
champ.
feel pain.
Yeah.
Oh, I love his
Like,
story.
he's straight was like, I didn't feel pain.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I was always the Spike Dudley on the trampoline.
There you go.
My friends were playing
You
football.
got destroyed.
I got thrown around, man. And I loved it, dude. You know how many times I got F5'd and power bombed?
yeah.
I was good.
Were y'all
I
backyard
was
wrestling
taking
a lot?
bumps,
Yeah.
dude, on the trampoline, man. Me and my friends, oh gosh,
man,
I was
we-
so good.
we didn't
I
grow
think
up-
I'm the only guy that didn't break anything. That's how good I was.
See, we didn't grow up
They
with
all
it.
broke their wrists. Some
Yeah.
guy broke his
You
ankle.
could take
I didn't.
Trampoline AJ style.
We could-
Man,
you
I
worked
guess that's not the right one to say right now. It's on the show.
Dude, yeah, we didn't grow up with the F5, so I didn't get F5 growing up. Razor's Edge in the pool.
F5 was
Ours was the
real
stunner.
fun.
Yeah, stunner.
Oh, Stunner was great.
And you can do it anywhere. It's relatively
We had
safe.
we had a kid break his own neck trying to stun himself.
Oh,
Don't know how he did
How
it.
you stunning yourself?
Well, that's just what kept coming up. Like, he had to wear the halo and everything.
Oh,
And
okay.
people would be like, what happened? He'd be like, he tried to stun himself. And we'd all be like, how? But you can't go up to the kid and be like, show us how you got this way.
Right. Was there ever a time where you fell off on the product, stopped watching?
sure. I think, yeah, there was definitely that mid-high school, which was the worst time.
What year would that have been?
Gosh, I started high school in
What year did you
99.
graduate?
I graduated in 2003.
We graduated the same year.
Yeah, that's right. And I hate that I dipped out for a little bit. However, I was a giant Tough Enough fan when the first 3 seasons of Tough Enough.
I remember Daniel Pewter.
Yeah.
Love Daniel Pewter.
The first 3 seasons were just really good reality TV. Then they ruined it.
Was Chris Masterson on that?
They made that one season 4 where it was kind of like the episodes weren't as long or episodic. I forget which one.
Who was the guy that straight up
Ryback
on the
was on that one,
concussion
Miz.
now? Chris Nowinski or whatever?
Yeah, he does the concussion stuff. That was season 1.
Okay.
It was between him and Maven, who Maven has got that massive YouTube channel.
Talk
And
about a storyline.
I love
Like,
watching
Maven
them.
were
Go
coming for
from
you
Tough
too.
Enough
Yep.
to eliminating the Undertaker in
Yep.
the Royal Rumble
Yeah, dude, Maven's cleaning it up right
to
now.
out of WWE in what, 3 years?
Yep, and as someone who just loved Tough Enough, I'm taking it all in. I was a big fan of Matt Capitelli, who was an OVW guy who passed with brain cancer, sadly. But that dude was a natural. This is pre-social media, so I would watch Tough Enough, and I'm like, all right, when's the guy getting on the main
We
roster?
had to get our wrestling content however we could.
Yeah, I
there
didn't
was
know-
no like the YouTube, like the WWE Vault's been a game changer for me.
I was
Like,
going to the OVW website, just checking weekly reports, no video, just reports.
I was getting the
news.
newsletters
Yeah.
mailed. Like, I was the one you sign up for the subscription.
Yeah.
They mail you the newsletter.
I hated I stopped watching at that time because I went back, and what got me back into it was the game SmackDown. Shut your mouth. Yep.
Such a great game.
2003, 2004. I think it still holds up.
Yeah.
It just looks
That was a
really
good
good.
My
That's a
roommate
really good
had
one.
that.
It looks
in
really
college,
good, but
so I played
going
it
back
all
in,
the time.
I started learning more about the guys, and I'm like, oh man, Benoit was way better than I used to. I know it's but his
We'll
wrestling,
bleep that out. I'm kidding.
but just going
I
back.
loved Benoit. The first Royal Rumble I ever watched was him winning the Rumble.
I mean,
So-
unfortunately, that's
tough. It's
That's
tough.
the catch.
When you're so
22
good at
is being-
something.
Well, that's the catch 22 of being a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Is it's littered.
Yeah.
With terrible people.
Sure, yeah,
It's
wrestling
just-
business is
it's-
not full of good people. So, but I would catch a few episodes where he was wrestling Angle on SmackDown, and I'm going, man, these guys are
Yeah, dude.
so good together. So-
That's my biggest regret is I dipped out at the same time and missed early 2000s SmackDown.
yeah.
Early 2000s was really good. I mean,
The
it fell off
wrestling
around
talents.
2005, 6. It was tough.
The talent was so.
Well, they had
good,
no
though.
they had no competition pushing them. So
Yeah.
they got to do they tried to create SmackDown versus Raw to be competition
Yeah.
for themselves, and
Could
the
could they
product stagnant.
could they? Well, I guess Vince is like, nope, it's my brand. But could they have kept it alive by just going, all right, we'll secretly own WCW?
No doubt, but Vince can't secretly
but he
own
wanted,
anything.
Yeah, he wanted to go on. No, he wanted that moment on air to be like,
kidding me?
hello.
I'm surprised he gave Shane the glory.
What a moment! I remember losing my
I
head,
lost
going,
my
"What's?"
mind.
I was going, "What's real?" Like,
I remember
So-
being, knowing it was Vince bought it.
Yeah.
And I remember knowing how much of an egomaniac Vince was, even back then, being
Yep.
like, he let Shane go on TV? Wow, that's a big move.
Yeah.
And then I got out, like, I wasn't around for the invasion because I knew
Invasion.
I knew that Hogan, Nash, Hall, those guys were on AOL contracts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew they weren't coming over with the rest of, and I read the names of the people they were coming over, and I just checked out. I was like, nope.
Yep, Sting's not coming.
I'm done.
Yeah, when that invasion, the draft, I remember just kind of going,
I think that's what got me. I watched TNA a lot.
TNA was coming around, and a lot of wrestlers.
To me, that was WCW.
Yeah, and I loved. I mean, anytime I saw the Styles Clash on TNA, I was like,
immediately loved Styles. Like those Ultimate X matches were WCW cruiserweights.
Where can folks find those? Actually, if I wanted to go back and watch those,
Pluto and YouTube TV have a whole channel dedicated to old TNA.
Pluto has a whole Impact channel.
It's the same channel, but you can find it on both places.
Yeah,
I don't have either of those. I'll have to find some.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, Pluto's free.
I got Pluto then.
Yeah, if you got a smart TV, you got Pluto.
I got a smart TV, guys. I'm up with it.
I'm doing
Pluto.
all right.
Pluto. Like I
getting
just
some
watched.
good gigs.
I watched Turning Point 2005.
The
other day,
Okay, cool.
and it was
They had some
sick.
good factions, man. Beer Money.
Yes, man. Yes, dude.
Cowboy James Storm.
I hate I'm even saying this, but Team Canada.
Yeah.
Into it.
Dude, James Storm, it was several years ago. It was actually at the fairgrounds. Got to see him wrestle, and the crew I was next to, the match got into the audience, And so my buddy Ryan had a beverage, and he's like, "Oh, what do you got in here? Whiskey?" Just took it from Ryan, just smashed his opponent's face with it. And so Ryan got to he like. The dude at the concessions believed him. He's like, "Yeah, the wrestler took my drink." Can I get
like that
can I get a new
happens? Well, that was one of my favorite events. Is I went to a Armory show for TNA in early 2000s, like
Nice.
05, 06.
Okay.
And I got to see. It's when they had the Voodoo Kin Mafia, which Vincent Kennedy, man, it's just funny to see.
Nice.
So I got to go in there with the ticket. You got a meet and greet. So I got to meet Billy Gunn,
Heck yeah.
Jesse James, R-Truth, Chris Sabin, and the guy that's with Jay Lethal in AEW now.
Oh shoot,
the pencil guy. Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah, I forgot.
So I got to meet all those guys, and they brought the house down. And Beer Money did the same thing. They grabbed someone's drink and smash it on the face. So I just wonder if that's
awesome.
their thing.
It's got to be. And then, man, Billy, I was a big Smoking Guns guy, and I
love Billy Gunn.
I think Hasbro had Smoking Guns. I think they made the Smoking Guns, if I remember correctly.
And it's one of the rare ones.
Very rare. Them and Billy or 123 Kid are like super rare.
Which the shaved eyebrows.
Yeah,
I
the rib. I love that rib. But Billy, how did they not make him look massive in the mid? Because you go, this guy's huge, and then in the mid '90s, you're going, this guy could have been a top. He was so huge.
Dude, they had Bart
massive.
Gunn.
They made him look small.
They had Bart Gunn handed to them as a main event guy with the brawl for all and did nothing with it. So you think they're going to do something with his partner? They tried to give him the King of the Ring. They gave him the Rock. They gave him the IC belt. But then it almost was like they half-heartedly gave it to him because they gave it to him with no push. They're like, you got to do it.
Right.
But like,
which if you hadn't listened, I was so glad we got to listen to that episode of JBL talking about Brawl for All.
That episode made me a massive JBL fan because you hear all the things about JBL being a jerk. We're talking about Morrow. He literally ran Morrow out of the company. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
actually,
it's hard.
And they talk about that, and he's like, you need to hear JBL's side of the story.
I understand that he's like, this is what we always did.
No, but JBL explained
we just talk trash.
Because apparently Morrow was like, no, I really was dealing with some mental issues.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I held that against JBL.
Same.
And the more JBL content I absorb, I'm a massive JBL fan. Like, I think that dude just lives, breathes, bleeds the wrestling business and just won't sit to do nothing but succeed.
Yeah.
And the way he's talking, he's going to show up on these indies, but they also advertise him for Netflix, Raw on Netflix. So I'm hoping that they intertwine. If he's going to do this last Cowboy Vengeance thing, bring it, do it in WWE too. You know?
Now, when you guys were on the road, did you guys? I know you're asking questions here, but I just had
ask us a question.
But like, I was, starting to finally get some road gigs. I was also at the same time listening to Something to Wrestle With, and then these wrestlers talk about their stories from the road. It felt very similar. Not that it's like the exact same thing, but them talking about going from town to town, who knows how many people are going to be there, and then thinking of ideas to do at your show, going, oh, I could do this joke. And then
no, it definitely makes me feel connected. Like jumping in the car, like that's what I was so bummed about the snow and ice missing Knoxville, because to me, that's our ultimate connection to the rest of this business that I love so much, because I am definitely too much like I sold my body to sports growing up. You know what I mean? Like I gave my body to baseball and hockey, and I am destroyed because of it. I couldn't imagine if I also was like, let me wrestle too.
But yeah.
So that connection of having a broken down body and jumping in the car with my peers to go city to city. Like me and Evan were on like a long weekend in Charleston and but we're also doing towns around
Working the towns. Yeah, you're working the towns.
You're sleeping on somebody's floor. You're jumping in the car. You're doing a gig.
The whole thing's
You're
about
messed up the whole time. You're popping. You know, they obviously were doing harder drugs to get their bodies, but I'm throwing some. I'm down in a whole bag of weed gummies. You know what I mean? Like, it made some Mucinex because I'm allergic to dogs, and we just stayed with the dog.
And the business is about.
That's my connection to the old school wrestling.
And then both businesses, comedy and wrestling, for me, it's about a reation the whole time.
It's about making all the money you can possibly make because we are swimming in it,
rolling at with our bonkers comedy gigs. So Dan Whitehurst, do we know Dan Whitehurst?
Love Dan Whitehurst. Just worked with him with Killer Bees.
Oh, okay. Dan's one of my favorite humans. When no one would give me stage time, Dan and South Street Comedy Club would give me stage time. But Dan was great. This was way later on down the road. I went with him to do a bonkers gig. I don't plan on working for Bonkers anymore. So
have you done Bonkers?
So
I did a bowling alley that you can hear behind you.
Yeah,
that's
Bonkers will put up a club in a funeral home section corner,
they won't cancel the funeral. They'll just be like, in addition to.
Yeah, love that.
Do they know that comedy's over there? It doesn't matter. We were into the space, but we did a show at some random bar at the end of North Carolina beach area, maybe 4 people. The 4 people left, and then there was a second show. Those remaining 2 people stayed for the second show. So
that was a bonkers club I did in North Carolina. It was a biker bar.
Same crowd stayed for both shows.
Oh my gosh.
We literally got off the stage of the first show. No one moved. And they're like, all right, when you want to start the second one? We're like, what?
About to run it back? Yeah. You want to run it back again?
Well, that's the bartender's like, we need to hurry so we don't lose anybody.
Right.
Like, no, we want to lose people.
Yeah. I would like to lose those 2 specifically. Yeah, please.
So when did you get back into the product?
And probably after
what got you back into it?
It was the group of friends I met in college. Actually, I found out they were into it, and so we all got together to watch WrestleMania, I believe 20, and it was
what a WrestleMania!
So you got back. So you only took like 3 years off.
A few years off, and then there was a little bit of off and on, but then in my late 20s, a church I was going to, I saw someone tweet about Kane is back, and I'm like, oh, you guys watch wrestling? Because I would catch
Kane
it.
Got you back into it. Was he already the mayor of Knox County?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
Glenn Jacobs, which I met him. I met Glenn Jacobs when he was running at the Huckabee show backstage. I went to go see my buddy Clint do warm up, and found out Glenn Jacobs was on the show. Massive human being. He's not even that dude can lose weight, and he's still just genetically. It's like when you meet an NFL lineman, they're like, oh, they're not fat.
They're just big.
They're just built big.
That's why,
like him and
that's
Hacksaw,
how they can lose weight like that.
Yeah, him and like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which that was a cool little milestone. Working the road, I offered to do it for free to go to Louisville to do a guest set for Hacksaw Jim Duggan's little comedy show at the Laughing Derby. At the time, it was called Laughing Derby.
I was about to say the Laughing Derby.
Now it's Caravan.
Okay.
Now it's back to being Caravan.
There we go.
But yeah, getting to drove there to do a set with Hacksaw, and his wife's legit selling 2x4s, pieces of wood.
Love that.
Selling pieces of wood. He would
This
autograph
is what he
it.
carried into Madison Square Garden in '87. Okay.
But super, and I liked it because he told stories more than he didn't try to
be a
tell
one man
jokes.
show.
Yeah, that's what I was like, this is great. So
Mick Foley's is similar.
Yeah, and just looking at the picture I took with him, just how massive just of a human because he was a football
hands,
guy.
dude.
Ham hocks, man, it was so good. But it was so it'd be off and on here and there, a couple of years, and not now. I'm pretty hooked on it thanks to social media, and then now we can go back and watch all these legends. I can't get enough of like Bruiser Brody stuff and Terry Funk and and I'm drawing a blank. Cowboy Stan Hansen. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the Dark Side of the Ring did a great job of getting me into wrestlers before my time.
Yep.
You know, like the Dark Side of the Ring just did one on Harley Race. I highly recommend
Legends.
because you always hear his name.
Yeah.
And to me, unfortunately, it's just the times that I grew up in. He was always just Vader's manager.
Right.
You know, I didn't get to see Harley Race. You know,
Yeah.
so
And these documentaries they're making, like the rivalries documentaries, like the Dusty
good.
Rhodes, Ric Flair one.
the Cody
for
Rhodes
people
one
who
was good.
Yeah, I mean, for people who just weren't alive yet,
Right.
and
I didn't want to miss
still
it.
enjoy those rivalries, they're doing a really good job, and I hope they continue to even not the big names. Like, give us some of those great rivalries over the years where you have all this content. Like,
That's what I love about Gordy.
Give us everything.
You know, Gordy from the Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, didn't know he was an executioner.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like just things like that. You know, like
Dude, and it's socially acceptable now, more socially acceptable to like wrestling than it used to be.
Evan Evan loves preaching about that.
Yeah.
We're wrestling fans. So what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you're in the minority now, not being a wrestler.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Like, sorry, y'all don't know what's going on. It's almost like when you're like talking to someone about like, have you watched Lost yet?
Right.
No, you're lost.
Right.
Yeah.
You're lost. It's a
Yeah,
great show.
like you'd have Star
Great show.
Wars fans and all these. They were into like comic book stuff. They'd make fun of you for watching
Everyone's got
wrestling.
their
You're
thing.
just going, it's the same thing.
Because now
Everyone's got
people
their
are
thing.
like, I know I should get back into it. It's like, I'm glad you know that.
You should.
I'm glad you know
You
that.
definitely should.
Right. Just watch some highlights of like, God, all it takes is watching Stone Cold and Rock just going back at it.
Well, I was gonna say we got to wrap it up, but
sorry.
I gotta ask you one final question. We talked about the rivals, and you just said Stone Cold and Rock. Give me two wrestlers, no matter age, no matter time frame, that could feud forever, as far as you're concerned.
They could feud forever. Goldberg and Bret Hart.
I think they will feud forever. I think you're gonna get your wish.
Bret will come out of retirement for a shoot match
Brett
with Goldberg.
still
Yeah,
hates
so-
that dude.
You know, though, that's
Brett's going to be sitting front row at Goldberg's retirement match. No, I'm
he's
kidding.
gonna interfere. He's gonna interfere. That's like any. Is age a factor? I know I'm overthinking this question. Just like, or a rivalry you can see just.
It could do it literally up for any interpretation.
Man, that's-
if you could give us a feud that we didn't get because of different times,
Sure.
or a feud we got that you just like, I need more of it because they could literally feud forever.
I'm gonna go Dream Feud, and I just they weren't around at the same time, so I'm putting Bret Hart back in it. But I've always wanted to see Bret Hart and Angle, and I feel like talking about the excellence of execution battle right there, because both of them, no one could do it better in my eyes as far as technical wrestling than those two, and both had a motor, and but Bret did a better
Those
job.
matches, dude.
Those would be incredible.
And,
Just like
matches.
but yeah, perfectionist matches. Those are
Iron Man.
Those are the best types of.
They could have an Iron Man
matches.
match every WrestleMania.
Those are the matches that you're like, there's no way they can top that.
It's like
and
when
then they do.
Andrade and Rey Mysterio kept going at it on
Yeah.
SmackDown. It's almost like Andrade and Carmelo. It's like just these guys that are like, we're gonna.
The chemistry is just too good.
Yeah, like
I quit
yeah.
match with them two. You're not gonna have you're gonna have a draw.
Hit me with an Iron Man match that doesn't solve anything.
Yeah.
That I quit match to Hell in a Cell
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah,
Because I want
absolutely.
Angle. I want Perk Angle
Yeah,
doing a backflip off the top of the cage on Bret.
I want USA Angle, Canada Bret Hart.
Yes. I mean, any iteration. Like, those
Yeah.
are the feuds that you
Come
can
on,
give me
you can bring
heel
up- yeah.
or face,
Yeah.
either one.
You
Like,
could easily
intertwine
bring-
them.
you could easily bring
You know
up-
what? Feud so long, you got to switch.
Yep.
Feud so long that in the middle of it, you get whoever's the face becomes the heel.
And then Angle could always bring up your dad tried Olympic wrestling once. I remember. And
Oh, that was the best when Jerry Lawler was feuding with Hart and he kept bringing his dad into it.
yeah. Lawler was my first true heel.
Where's
that
Stu?
I hated Lawler so much as a kid. He did his
I
job.
bet, yeah, as a Hart fan, you gotta hate Jerry Lawler.
And then it didn't make sense on USWA TV growing
Yeah,
up.
man.
I'm like, why is he a good guy on my home street?
Territories, bruh.
Lee Hardin, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're definitely going to be having you back.
What a just an easy flowing conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's always good to hear how comics become fans, how people become fans, because at the end of the day, everyone loves wrestling.